Recently, alarming headlines appeared in the world media. Ukraine has crossed Putin's nuclear red line. The issue is that a Ukrainian drone attacked the Russian over-the-horizon radar 29B6 container. This is an extremely powerful antenna that can detect air targets at a distance of 3,000 kilometers, about 1,864.11 miles. Such technology was developed precisely to detect enemy nuclear missile launches as quickly as possible. Logically, these over-the-horizon radars are considered an important part of nuclear weapons, hence the alarming news headlines. Because the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin started a war against Ukraine in 2022 and immediately began threatening the world with nuclear war if anyone crossed the red lines. And by red lines, he meant anything from providing weapons to Ukraine to shelling military targets on Russian territory. What more can be said about attacking a radar that is an important component of the nuclear program? But a day passed, then another, and nuclear war still did not start. So, does this mean that Vladimir Putin is just needlessly beating the air by threatening nuclear war? No. The Russian dictator is engaged in nuclear blackmail, and he often achieves certain goals. It's just that the consequences of blackmail are not as noticeable as a nuclear mushroom cloud, and that's why humanity often underestimates its impact, but in vain. In this video, I will talk about how dictatorships use nuclear blackmail for their purposes, whether the strategy of nuclear deterrence works today, and why in the coming years the number of nuclear countries could grow from 9 to 40. What do people first think about when it comes to the danger of nuclear weapons? Clearly, they think of atomic bomb explosions, the destruction of all life, and complete apocalypse. And this is logical. It is also logical to think that if a country suddenly decides to blow up its enemies, only a symmetrical threat can stop it. Based on this logic, American diplomat George Kennan developed the strategy of nuclear deterrence in the 1940s. The idea was as follows: if any international aggression could end in a nuclear explosion and the destruction of humanity, then countries would simply stop waging wars. Of course, they didn't stop. More than 100 military conflicts have occurred in the world since 1945 to the present day. And this is not counting numerous civil wars. 25 million people died in these non-nuclear but very destructive military conflicts. So, does this mean that the strategy of nuclear deterrence does not work? Not quite. After all, we are still not living in the post-apocalyptic world of the disaster film The Day After. The strategy of nuclear deterrence is based on the fear of starting a war that would destroy humanity. And all this time, it has stopped one nuclear country from attacking another nuclear state or those under a neighbor's nuclear umbrella. The USSR in its time did not attack the USA, and China did not target NATO countries with nuclear warheads. But there is one significant but. The same China throughout this time has managed to seize Tibet, Aksai Chin, and the Paracel Islands. And the USSR not only suppressed numerous national uprisings, but also invaded Czechoslovakia and carried out a military intervention in Afghanistan. Wars continue, including wars of aggression, and it seems that the time has come to admit that nuclear deterrence helps aggressor countries in these wars, because it restrains democratic countries to stop an attacker when he plans to seize part of a non-nuclear state. This is how nuclear blackmail works. In 2008, the Russian Federation, which has the largest stockpile of nuclear weapons in the world, launched a military invasion of non-nuclear Georgia. Meanwhile, in the US strategic concept, there are clauses on encouraging Russia to cooperate for the further joint development of the European security system. Why is that? Because Americans remember the Cuban Missile Crisis very well and do not want the world to be on the brink of destruction or uncontrolled expansion of nuclear potential again. as it was during Cold War. Back then, the situation in the world was clearly getting out of control. According to estimates from the 1960s, 23 countries had either nuclear weapons or nuclear programs. The world was in constant tension. It seemed that humanity had only one path, to nuclear apocalypse. But then, the nuclear genie, if not stuffed back into the bottle, was at least tamed. Politicians around the world rushed to calm each other's nuclear ambitions. The main nuclear rivals, the USSR and the USA, signed a treaty on the reduction and limitation of strategic offensive arms. The nuclear race began to subside. Some states curtailed their nuclear programs, while others, such as South Africa, abandoned their already tested nuclear weapons. The world gained a somewhat shaky sense of stability, and also trapped itself into blackmail by totalitarian and any other non-democratic systems. Imagine that you are the president of a democratic country, holding a nuclear briefcase, and talking to a dictator who also has a nuclear briefcase. And he openly declares to you that he wants to seize this or that territory. And if you try to stop him, he will definitely press the nuclear button. In such a situation, would you be able to promise the dictator the same? Of course not, because you are the president of a democratic country, and first and foremost, you have to uphold the rights and safety of your citizens. As for the dictator, he is certainly not limited by such things. The totalitarian system allows him to completely disregard public opinion and people's lives. This is not just an imaginary situation. This happened during the Cold War. The head of the USSR did indeed threaten US President John F. Kennedy with nuclear war if he prevented the Russians from subjugating West Berlin. Such blackmail is still happening now. In March 2014, Russian troops seized the Ukrainian peninsula of Crimea. At the same time, Russian state television was teeming with nuclear threats towards NATO countries. Russian propagandist Dmitry Kiselev threatened that Russia is the only state in the world capable of turning the United States into radioactive ash. And the Russian president himself admitted in an interview that he threatened NATO leaders with nuclear weapons so they would not interfere in this conflict. In 2022, the Russian Federation launched a full-scale war against Ukraine and immediately resumed nuclear threats towards NATO countries to stop their desire to help the victim of aggression. At first glance, it may seem that these threats did not work at all. After all, NATO countries are helping Ukraine fight for its independence against Russian invaders. But that's just how it seems. Because with his loud statements, the Russian dictator is shaking the world's nuclear security system and pushing the world towards another nuclear crisis, or rather, towards another surge of mass nuclear armament. Before moving on to the most interesting part, please subscribe to my channel and like this video so that as many people as possible can learn about this important topic. Today, we know 9 officially nuclear countries. These are the USA, Russia, Great Britain, France, China, India, Pakistan, North Korea, and Israel. But in reality, there could be many more at any moment. The world is not clearly divided into nuclear and non-nuclear countries. The systematization is much more complex. In addition to officially nuclear states, scholars identify so-called threshold states. These are states that plan to develop nuclear weapons and even have the potential to do so. They can join the nuclear club at any moment. These could be Iran, Libya, South Korea, and about a dozen other countries that, frankly, are not too concerned about adhering to international agreements. And remember when we talked about the 1960s, when 23 countries had nuclear programs? Many of them, such as Argentina, Brazil, Sweden, Japan, Germany, Australia, and South Africa, have abandoned such weapons development to this day. But that does not mean that under certain circumstances in the world, they cannot take it up again. Scholars call such countries near threshold. These are countries separated from nuclear armament only by the political will of their leadership. So what is the Russian dictator doing with his nuclear blackmail? He is shaking the confidence of world leaders that the strategy of deterrence will work next time. The level of international tension is constantly rising. Faith in any nuclear deals is also rising. And now China is unofficially increasing its nuclear potential. For this country, Putin's blackmail is an example to follow. If the democratic world gives in to the Russian dictator's nuclear threats and allows him to seize Ukraine, China will invade Taiwan, also brandishing a nuclear cudgel. The world will have to put up with that too. Different countries will again face the question, shouldn't we also acquire nuclear weapons in order to be able to protect ourselves in a world where the atomic bomb is the only truly effective argument? It is no secret that the belligerent Iran has long planned to obtain nuclear weapons. There are even rumors that they have already obtained the secrets of its production from the Russian Federation in exchange for drones. As soon as this became known, the Prince of neighboring Saudi Arabia immediately stated, if Iran arms itself with nuclear weapons, his country will do the same. One by one, in fear for their security, states will buy, steal, and revive previously closed nuclear programs. Some countries will do this officially. Some will secretly convert civilian nuclear programs to produce deadly weapons. And in a few years, the number of nuclear states will grow to 40. The world will slide into another nuclear frenzy. Immediately after the end of World War II, the English writer George Orwell wrote the article You and the Atom Bomb. It contains much that was prophetic. In particular, the nuclear weapons cannot put an end to all wars, but can return despotism to the world. Almost 80 years ago, George Orwell clearly foresaw today's world, which is forced to restrain itself from nuclear apocalypse at the cost of continuing indefinitely a peace that is no peace. Today, we understand that this refers to a peace ruled by nuclear blackmail. Mankind will definitely not be able to stuff the nuclear genie back into the bottle. Even if all existing nuclear weapons disappear, the knowledge of how to make them will remain and will again be useful to some new Hitler. So obviously, humanity needs not just to learn to live with nuclear weapons, but most importantly, to learn to resist nuclear blackmail in order to prevent the peace that is no peace from once again finding itself on the brink of total destruction.